tremendous looking trophy.
Welcome to Platinum Explosion, #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Owen Wyatt. Joining me, Ashley Hobley.
I'm excited to be here this week. Quarantine still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 6 months more. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. I will note, I actually had a moment yesterday where I was starting to feel a bit antsy. Like, because the only time I'm leaving the house is go to work, but that's like car and then briefly outside before I'm inside my work building and then I'm go home, you know? So I feel like I'm now at like my 3rd week of doing that and I'm starting to be like, miss the fresh air, maybe. I don't know.
Yep.
Anyway.
So you went to the beach, you threw a house party, and everything's fine.
No.
Don't do that, kids.
I will continue on because it's the right thing to do, everyone. You should be quarantining yourselves. Anyway, in the trophy cabinet this week, we have a bronze trophy. We're going to be talking about Predator Hunting Grounds trial / demo, whatever they called it. Silver trophy. The PS5 game's being confirmed now. We've got a couple more. A gold trophy for the brand new Last of Us replay segment, which will be coming later in the show. And then we're going to hit a platinum talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, maybe being out by the time you're already listening to this. Who knows what could happen. I do want to make a quick asterisk and say that I last night when I was, as of recording last night, when I was like doing notes, at the time it was like, rumor, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remake campaign possibly coming out like within the next couple of days. And I was like, like these are some legit more leaks here and stuff like that. The trophies are now live on PSN profiles. The game seems like it's just going to drop either today or tomorrow, sometime soon. So that's a thing.
Here's my question. If the game's not out, how do people already have the trophies?
No one has the trophies. They just sync to the server. So PSN Profiles gets the details from the network server. If the trophies are live or whatever, I don't know exactly how it works. But sometimes games do get leaked because their trophies go public on the trophy server or whatever. So,
but it says like 11 people have trophies in the game already.
Oh, since I last looked, do they? Okay. Well, I guess they got sent codes or something, presumably, or they could be devs.
Or
you never know.
Looks like Germany got the game first for some reason.
Possibly. Who knows what could happen? Anyway, that's apparently a thing that's going to be out soon. So, no point theorizing. It's coming. Let's get into it. Talking about Predator Hunting Grounds demo trial thing, beta. That was up. So this was available over the weekend on your PS4 and PC via the Epic Games Store. And it did have crossplay. Although I don't think any of the games we played, I don't recall seeing any PC players at all. No. But I did see clips on Twitter where people were posting clips and I did see people in their games being from PC while I was playing on PS4. So crossplay is a thing. Anyway, so me, played with Buddy Watson the other night. We played for, I don't know, like an hour, roughly, I guess.
Yeah, hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like, decent, enough to be like, I've got a feeling of what this is, what the problems I have with this are, the general scope of the game, and what it's going to be like. My initial impressions are there was some bugs and stuff, but also it's a beta, so there's always like leeway
issues,
to how you feel about that, and that's kind of just what you have to take with a grain of salt when play these sorts of things. And also I did see a lot of people online pointing out the fact that they reckon it looks like a PS2 game. I think that's hyperbole half the time because I think people forget what PS2 games actually look like. I will say that it doesn't look graphically amazing, but at the same time, when it's from the same dev that made Friday the 13th, it looks drastically better. You know, like it seems.
But again, that's like environments as well.
Yeah, I guess
it's looks completely different to Friday the 13th. Also, it's during daytime, so that's a big change.
They might add nighttime. I don't know. Like that could be a thing in the full game. But the way the game plays out is it's 4v1. So you have a team of 4 special ops agents or whatever. Think the plot of Predator 1. If you've seen it, it's literally the same sort of thing where your squad of 4 get dropped into this jungle and there are AI mercenaries at certain locations and it randomly gives you a mission. One game, it's like destroy these chemical barrels. Another one, it's like go here, get a piece of information, then go to this other place and get documents. Another place it's like destroy this crate. It varies. They're all pretty simple though. It just ends up with you shooting AI enemies and going from objective A to B. Meanwhile, the Predator is over here doing something. None of us ever played as him, so we can't actually comment too hard on that. I tried to play as him later. Quickly, I popped back in the other day to see if I could get a Predator game in quickly to get an idea. I couldn't. It gave me the moon. So I think everyone was obviously clicking Predator, and the chances of you actually being the Predator were quite fucking low because everyone's trying to play as the Predator because that's what everyone wants to play as.
But I think the only guaranteed way to try out the Predator was if you did the tutorial, which was purely the Predator mission. And from that, it seems like it's just kill everybody. Yeah. That's your goal.
Kill everyone and mainly kill the 4 dudes. And I guess like we theorize, and I think it makes sense that like we kept setting off alarms for these AI enemy bases. And that obviously would alert the Predator to where our position was because he would hear the noises, the gunshots, the alarms, all this sort of stuff. He then has thermo and whatever else. So he'd be able to track what's going on.
He has a lot of trackable abilities. So,
and in a lot of
finding
ways,
us is not that difficult. In
a lot of ways, it was reminding me of, even though I didn't play much of it, Evolve, the like kind of OG X versus 1
asymmetrical gameplay.
That sort of thing, which was they had like several different monsters and whatever, and I think it was 3v1 from memory, I can't remember, but
something like that,
yeah. And the monsters in that were pretty much exactly what it seems like the Predator has to do in this, which is you can kind of go, I think in that you could go farm up kills, and some of the monsters would like evolve to more powerful forms, basically. But then at the same time, the other 3 human characters could be getting better guns. So the longer you could race to them faster and try to kill them while they're weak, but also you'd be weaker, or you could let them both build up or whatever. So there was like risk and reward to that. This game doesn't seem to have that. Like there's no real reason not to just rush in as the Predator. Like if you're the Predator and you see the enemy team, it's like just go. And then as the 4 mercenaries, you don't get better guns or you don't get stronger armor or ways to help escape the Predator from completing objectives. And I think that's my biggest criticism for it so far, is that it should be rewarding you. I think the further you get in the core objective, it should be rewarding with items or ways to help deal with the Predator. So it then deals a negative effect to the Predator for him letting you go so long untouched and unwavered. And also at the same time, I feel like the Predator should maybe start out with weaker at the start. So if you have that level that like in the first 2-minute tussle, that you have a higher chance as the mercenaries of being able to shoot the Predator enough, not to kill him, but to definitely send him away so he has to go heal up, because he heals up by killing boars and whatever else and eating them, I suppose, taking their spines. He gets health back that way. So that's like my biggest criticism so far. Overall, I would say I enjoyed the games we played, and much like Friday the 13th, it definitely seems like if you're streaming the game and you're playing with a whole heap of friends, you're going to have a lot of fun, especially if you have a team of 5 friends and
group of
5 and you can laugh. You can have heaps of fun, much like you could when Jason would sneak up, in that game, Friday the 13th. And be like, bam, here come, get you, all this sort of stuff. So that's how I feel. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar train. I think it feels a little bit like a wave shooter, but with a Predator chucked in on top, Yeah. It's just get to objective, kill a bunch of enemies, get to objective, wait for something to load, and then while a bunch of enemies come at you and just kill them all. So it'd be interesting to like switch that up a little bit. Again, the improvements and like making it more difficult. It feels like the Predator is kind of OP at the moment, where if the person playing the Predator knows what they're doing, they'll take you out pretty quick. And I think the only one we actually won was like the Predator didn't show up at any point, pretty much.
He showed up like right near the end, and then there was a point where he's like standing there trying to like melee attack someone, but he wasn't doing like the insta kill, and I just like put a whole like 3 clips into him pretty much without missing any shots nearly, and I'm like, okay, like so that person didn't really know what they were doing. But the Predator does have like this insta kill move, You just grab him and he fucking stabs you in the back and kills you. And that's like, and he moves so fast and he can come from the trees and everything. So it's just like, and to be fair, the Predator is supposed to feel super strong. Invincible. And it's supposed to be hard to win the game. Friday the 13th was always hard to win the game. But at the same time, I felt like there was more ways to win and more ways to protect against Jace than that compared to this. So
yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. Just the games feel shorter. I don't know whether that's because they're trying to push the action element, but the games do definitely feel shorter than they did in Friday the 13th, which I guess makes sense because you're trying to survive rather than kind of being on the offensive in this one. So it's interesting. I don't think it's like a day one rush to grab it unless you've got like a group of friends who are all going to pick it up and go into like a private server and talk shit to each other while shooting a bunch of people. Even just like the actual gunning gameplay, I don't think is that impressive.
No, definitely not.
No.
And the AI on the
AI
is terrible.
Really not good.
Dude just stands there like...
Walks right up next to you and then starts firing in another direction.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's potential there, but it still needs a bit of work, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely the potential here, and I want it to be fun because the first match we played, I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun, and then like the fun of it starts to wane after you do a couple matches and you've like seen it and experienced the Predator. But like definitely the first time he showed up, I was like, this is fun, and like I love the music in it because obviously I really like the movie. So if you love the Predator franchise, they've got lots of little details here. The fact you can like just stop at Martin and put that on your face, a la Schwarzenegger in the main movie and all that sort of stuff. So all those little details are really cool, but it just needs more of the little details and little things to pull it all together. And they just, I guess in like order of priority, it's like nerf Predator or buff mercenaries or just add all this stuff we're talking about where you'll get like start with weaker guns, and if you make it to the second objective, find a fucking Gatling gun or a thermo weapon or some shit. I don't know. Like,
I guess the thought process is you're leveling out. So, like, you'll get stronger as you progress through their tree and unlock different guns and that kind of stuff. So you'll be stronger in future games. But yeah, it would be good to be able to level up during a match.
Yeah.
In some way.
That's not different than heaps of other games that have, like League of Legends. I mean, that game has outside leveling and in-game leveling, you know. In the game, you level up, you get more powers, and outside your profile's leveling up and you unlock runes and masteries, costumes, whatever, all that sort of stuff. So it's not like a brand new idea we're talking about over here. But that's out, next month? Yeah, next month.
Yeah.
So I would be wary based solely on this as we approach release, but who knows like what build this was, like how much stuff isn't in this. I don't have the answers to these questions, but hopefully it's looking a lot better as we approach release. And the only way I'd super suggest picking up day one is if you do have that core group that you know you'll be able to play with, because when you have the core group and you can all just shit talk and have a laugh, and that's what I presume a lot of Twitch streamers will just be doing anyway, it'll negate a lot of the downsides of the game because you'll just be making up with it with your group of friends and having laughs at the bugs and the jankiness, which is the same as Friday the 13th.
It's more fun to be killed by your friend playing the Predators than some random guy being the Predator.
Yeah, especially if you're on voice chat and they can like troll you and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, agree. Let's get into a couple news stories. So, firstly, Push Square put up this reminder that I would have forgot about without them, so that was handy. The Humble Arcade Racer Drive Club goes offline tomorrow. We did talk about this when it was announced, but I did definitely felt like
it went out yesterday at time of release.
Oh yeah, time of release. It's gone. Yeah, that's right. RIP. It's officially gone by the time this drops. So sorry. The only way to play the game now is if you own it, you can still download it. You can play it offline that way. You won't be able to play any of the online features, obviously, and it won't be getting any more supported content. But it's been removed from the PlayStation Store, and it's been removed from physical stores unless places still have it I guess, but I don't think they're allowed to sell it.
I don't pre-owned.
Pre-owned, I guess, gets around it, but I don't think they're allowed to sell like new copies,
brand new
of the
copies.
game,
No,
of the game anymore.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, so its servers will be now disabled, so that defeats a lot of the key features of the game, because a lot of it was this interconnected, like, here's what your friend's time on this was, and you drive someone and be like, oh, do this, challenge the ghost, lots of that interconnected stuff, like lots of races really do to those. But either way, rest in peace, Drive Club. Peace out, my dude. Have see you on the flip side. See you on the flip side. So Final Fantasy VII, let's get into it. So IGN writes, copies of Final Fantasy Remake will ship early to Australia and Europe, Square Enix has announced. The news was revealed in a tweet. So if I get up the tweet here and then I can just read the full thing, because fuck it. Because to be fair, Square Enix has been pretty open about what they're struggling with, like making sure this game gets to stores in time, this sort of stuff. But they say the Final Fantasy VII Remake team have worked extremely hard to make this game, and we're incredibly proud of what you're about to play. Our biggest motivator during the development was that so many of you were willing us on. And we felt your enthusiasm and passion every step of the way. We had some hard decisions to make during the final few weeks before launch due to disruption to distribution channels caused by the spread of COVID-19 virus. These unique circumstances have made it very difficult to align timing of our global shipping. Our highest priority is that all of you, including those who live in countries currently facing the biggest disruption, can play the game at launch. So we made the decision to ship the game far earlier than usual to Europe and Australia. As a result, there is a greater chance that some of these regions will now get a copy of the game prior to the worldwide release date of April 10th. For other Western regions, including the Americas, copies will be shipped this week, and we feel optimistic that most of you will receive the game for launch day. However, due to the challenging situation, we cannot provide delivery dates for each country and each retailer. We really want you all looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake to play the game on April 10th and experience everything that we've been working on together. To everyone, we would like to ask one big favor. If you get the game early, please think of others and don't spoil it for them. We know there are potential spoilers that have been out there for over 2 decades, as the original game was released in 1997, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is a new game that still has many surprises for everyone. All of our fans and players deserve to experience the game for themselves, and we ask for the support of our dedicated community around the world to ensure that. On behalf of the entire development team and everyone around the world that's worked on getting Final Fantasy Remake to you, to all of you, thanks again for your support. And most importantly, please stay safe. So, the game, I saw Shannon from Press Start tweet just before we started recording that he says that apparently stores got it yesterday. EB, JB, and whatever. Apparently, according to what he knows. Which would make sense because I know that people in Europe already have the game. People are tweeting out they're tweeting out pictures of their special editions and whatever in Europe. So some stores over there are either giving it to their best customers, I guess, or just, people know people sort of thing. But stores have
accidentally chucked them in the mail. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess something like that. Yeah, a lot of people just lightheartedly not knowing. But given what happened to Persona last week and a bunch of other games, we're living in a world where this could randomly get released sometime between as we're recording now and by the time this comes out tomorrow. Like, that is simply a thing that could happen. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not saying like, oh no, it could get released early. That's terrible. Like, it's just what retailers have to go through and what they have to deal with at the moment. And the decision making isn't based on, we'll release it early because we just want people to play it early or whatever else. The reason these games were getting released early is because of fears of lockdowns and not being able to then give people their games. So EB made the decision, I believe they were the first one who was like Persona out the door, and then other retailers had to follow suit, obviously, because EB made the call. And really no one can fault EB as a retailer for making that decision. You can't be like, well, no, don't do that because because I mean,
it's
a hard one.
It's a hard one. I think number one in my mind is day one patches. Like,
Yep.
Will patches be...
It's true.
Will like a day one patch be out by the time people get given it? Is it going to be the best version of the game?
No.
No. So technically you should just pick up the game and wait till...
Imagine that.
April
People are like,
10th.
no, I'm waiting. I got it 10 days early. I'm waiting, bro. Got to make sure.
Oh, why is this game all buggy and shit?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, so I don't know. That's the only thing that I think might be like a drawback, but
That's
I haven't seen any people be upset about Persona. So, you know.
No, well,
with
that
any
game
issues with
was
that,
that game was fine as someone who played it. Well,
yeah,
before
so
actually,
maybe you know, Square Enix did a perfectly good job, and any day one patches are like
small details, small bugs.
Small bugs that don't ruin the game. But yeah, I can't fault them for wanting to put that product out before potentially people can't come in store and pick them up.
Yeah.
Purely from everybody's doing it, struggling with like sales and that kind of thing as a retailer. So I mean, it makes sense. It's interesting that I guess Australia is the only one that's been the one breaking street date recently. I don't think Persona 5 came out anywhere else, as far as I read.
No, I don't think it did. But I didn't like go check forums from every country in the world to.
Yeah, so
I definitely know America didn't, but like Europe may have, and I just didn't know. You know.
Yeah, so I know it also helps because it will likely break street date because, of course, the release date was Good Friday.
Easter,
so
yeah,
so there was zero chance people were going to pick it up on Good Friday. So if they release it the day before, at the very least, then people will be able to actually pick it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in a world where everything was right in the world at the moment, EB was just going to accidentally like tip out the copies on as they walked out the door on Thursday night. Oh, damn it! Break street date. Someone post on Facebook. It's on the street, literally. Oh no! What do we do now? Yeah. So, and obviously, as we were saying briefly before I start recording, that like it could break in the next like 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, or it could not. They might not release until sometime like a couple days before next week. All of that is dependent on how they're feeling about
the
lockdowny type stuff. It's nothing to do with, we'll just make the decision to release
it. We got it. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah, like they're not like, let's hold on to it like till the day before because we can kind of thing. It's all going to depend on how they feel as a retailer to how like what's happening in the world at the moment. So, and honestly, shit doesn't seem to be going down on the red alert scale. So,
I mean, well, it doesn't seem like it's going up, to be fair. Too much. It seems to be like plateauing.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Either way, it's definitely not going down. And if Persona came out at this current state, then...
I mean, if Persona came out a week and 2 weeks early, something like that. I mean...
Week and a half?
I don't think they're going to be waiting forever for it to come out.
No. Neither. And, yeah, so... we'll find out. It's gonna be,
but again, also upsetting Square Enix is going to be different to upsetting Atlas/Sega.
I don't think anyone. That's what I'm saying though. I don't think anyone can be angry. And as Square Enix,
I don't know. We don't know.
Square Enix are ahead of it in the tweet though. They say like, we know some of you are going to get this early. Like it's reading that tweet.
I interpreted that tweet as, hey, we don't know if it's going to be delayed in certain places. We're going to have the copies here in time.
No, I feel like there's two. Hold on, let me just open it again quickly. Because I feel like there's two.
I think they said we're sending copies out early because we're not sure what distribution channels will be like. Obviously,
as a result,
quicker.
There is a greater chance that some of you in these regions being Europe and Australia, will now get a copy of the game prior to the worldwide release date.
Okay, yeah.
So that's them getting ahead of
But again, they also imply that there'll be potential delays elsewhere.
Yeah, in America and so forth, because they've only shipped their stuff this week. Maybe not by now. Maybe they're shipping it today as we're recording, kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, so it definitely sounds like they're aware of the fact that Europe and Australia, where they've shipped them early, they're just like, fuck it, like some of you are gonna, and that's what I'm saying. They already are. People in Europe have already got the game. It's online. People are already playing it. People are leaking spoilers because they're dicks already. Like I've seen this shit. So it's the world we're living in.
What are the hashtags and code words to be
Hashtag
Music.
Final Fantasy VII. Maybe start with that. The words final and fantasy. You don't need them that much in your normal day-to-day life.
Unless you're like a fantasy book writer or like
something like that. Maybe at that stage you could have a problem. But anyway. All right. So last story. There was 2 games that got PS5 confirmation. One of them ports, one of them new one. Let's start with the port or whatever. IGN writes Warframe confirmed for PS5 and Xbox Series X. I did find this interesting because every time we talked about like how would Warframe come, all these free to play PS4 games, like would they be new versions? Would they just be backwards compatibility versions, But developer Digital Extremis, whatever. Warframe is coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X according to an annual results announcement from parent company Leo. Hong Kong-based digital holdings company Leo has a number of video game developers subsidiaries, with one of them being Digital Extremis. Leo recently released its annual results last year and it detailed all kinds of information, including revenue, gross profit, and more. It also sadly revealed that Warframe will be coming to next generation consoles. On the other hand, the group was... I want to skip that part. So they got temporary setbacks. They're talking about the games losing money. Everyone's fucking losing money, man. Let's be honest about that. With next generation consoles to be released by the end of 2020, sales of current models have been declining, which can contribute to a reduced number of new console players, they said in the thing. The final reason for a decline in revenue, according to Leo, is the size and scale of development work on Warframe's what the fuck word is that? Emprian milestone content update. Right. Warframe people are weird. But every time I see Warframe DLC come up, it's like written in some fucking other language. I swear to God. Leo said update cadence was temporarily affected as less new game content was released. Leo believes that Warframe will overcome these setbacks with the release of next generation consoles like PS5 and Xbox Series X. So it seems, reading it, because they make no mention of a new version or whatever. They're simply talking about from a monetary standpoint that there's a current decline, right? On the current versions, there is a current decline. And then they say that with the release of next generation consoles, they'll be able to get more money, which to me just sounds like they're just bringing the game over, literally like move the file. It's not a brand new PS5 version. Here's brand new stuff or whatever. I mean, to me, it's probably just the same as the PC version probably has high specs. And they're like, well, how about we just move the higher spec version over to next generation consoles? So I guess that's the answer to that question. And they'll be the same thing as other games. Epic's fucking Fortnite. What else we have? Apex Legends. All of these games probably. Yeah. Will they get quote unquote new versions? No, they'll just be like, here it is. It's not a PS5 version. It's just the same game, which is fine. Yeah, but
I mean, I think the key for all these games is to be there day one, because I feel like a lot of people will pick up it day one. They may not necessarily have new games, but depending on what backwards compatibility looks like. But as long as you have a version there day one, that's something people can play, and that's a chance to draw new players in, even if it is just like a version, the PS4 version. You can always update it later to be an enhanced PS5 version. You would think, patching it or completely redoing the file somehow. But yeah, that's cool. There's going to be PS5. It's not surprising anyway. Yeah. Again, as long as it's cross-platform, cross-generation play, that would be the only thing to be concerned about. But I assume that won't be an issue.
I think that's a good point. I think that's the only question that really remains for this, because this seems like one of these things that should just be simple, but because we had no confirmation, I've always been wondering. But I guess if this is what the Warframe team is doing, I would expect other teams to follow suit, which is just simply that bringing it over to these next consoles is just very easy. So they're probably just going to all be there day one. Apex, you can play on your PS5 day one if you want to. It'll probably just look and play exactly the fucking same with a brand new controller, which does mean that point you just brought up is a good one, which is that will you then be able to play, if you're playing on PS5, even though it's not cross-play, can you play with PS4 players? And how hard is that? Is that a network problem, or is that not a network problem? Because it's still connecting to the same
network.
network. It's just on a different console. Like,
Unless
surely
it's
that's no different.
PSN 2.
Is that just different? But surely it'd be no different than if you're playing on Xbox One X, Xbox One base model. Like, there's so much difference between those two consoles, but the Apex players would be playing together anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean?
I don't think there'll be too much. It's hard to say because obviously the last generational difference, there was like PS3 was so different to PS4, so there was no chance of cross-gen play. And I don't think like online multiplayer games are like as big as they are now.
No.
So I can't imagine it being an issue. Like, it might just like be a friends list thing. I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to like look at.
Yeah, it's certainly an
when we get
interesting
there.
question. And it seems like one as us as laymen who don't know anything, it's like,
Yeah.
surely that's just easy, right? It's the same network. Like, hello, does this?
I mean, if
just
we can
work?
play against Xbox players in certain games, I'm sure it wouldn't be too far of a stretch. And PC players who have any number of setups, it wouldn't be too crazy to play against PS4 players with PS5.
You gotta wonder sometimes with a game like Apex, which is the one we play the most, right? If the amount of people who upgrade would probably be a small handful, day one kind of thing. Let's say, I don't know, somewhere between around 10 to 15%. And maybe I'm even going too high then, I don't know. But I feel like
Probably.
maybe.
In this economy, yes.
In this economy, true, yeah. 5 to 10%, whatever. But that could still see a substantial percentage of a player base, you know, depending on the game, depending on the people, disappear unless they can still play with the PS4 players, you know? Like Warframe players could be hardcore people that all want to upgrade day one. And if, like, you know what I mean? Like, just say that the core Warframe player, 50% of them upgrade day one. So let's say overall, only like 5 to 10% upgrade day one, but 50% of Warframe's player base magically upgrades. Yeah. So then 50% of Warframe's player base is gone unless they can play with the PS4 people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to find out how that works close to release. Talking about another PS5 game, this game is new. A new game got announced. It's coming to PC, PS5, PS4. And yeah, so it's a brand new PS5 game. And much like most games that happen to be released for PS3 and PS4, I'm going to presume that it's going to look and play very subpar on PS4, and then the proper version will be on the PS5.
PS5.
Yeah.
Not PS3.
What? Yeah, PS4. Yeah, no. But I mean, like, between PS3 and PS4 back in the day when they did releases, the PS3 version was subpar as fuck. So the game's called Quantum Error. It's from Team Kill Media, and it is from Ash's favorite genre, first person. They call it a cosmic horror first person shooter, currently in development. I watched the trailer. I really like the trailer. I'm very excited for this because it looks so like, I don't know, some weird combination of like Dead Space, Alien Isolation type thing with potentially more intense first person combat, because the trailer starts and you're like, it's got this like helicopter or whatever it is, camera, just ship, I don't know, something panning across, and then it has the last couple minutes of the trailer are just this character walking around enclosed like space ship thing or whatever, and you know, they're creeping around, they see like footprints on the ground, very moody vibe, and then they look ahead towards the end of the trailer and this door like opens and it reveals a whole bunch of, I mean, the easiest way to call them is just like zombie creatures or something, but I mean, I'm sure this game will have their own terminology or whatever for what they end up being, and then like cuts to black for a couple seconds, and when it comes back the character's like being engulfed by these things charging at them. So it doesn't look like it'll be a survival horror game though, because the gun the character's carrying looks like some intense military action going on. You know, they're not like, oh, with a pistol with like 6 bullets, help me please Lord. They look like they're ready for a fight here, and it looks like there's a lot of enemies to fight because the amount of these zombie things that appears from behind the store is quite a lot. Either way, I really liked it. I would assume that you were like, nah, not for me.
I mean, yeah, I'm not interested, but it's a good trailer, I guess. I mean, build the tension pretty well.
Quantum Error.
Pretty generic name.
Yeah, so well, it just makes me think of Quantum Break every time. I'm like, Error. Quantum Error, that's right. But anyway, there's another game, next gen, quote unquote, next gen game coming. And in a world where we're time for details, it's funny how we keep getting like these sort of
random
game reveals before anything else, really. And this is 100% going to be developed for next gen in mind prior to the rest of the stuff. So I'm excited. Looks cool. So there's that. There's if we don't count Warframe or whatever, there's like this. What the fuck is that sword one? I can't remember what the fuck it's called. Whatever, the one we saw, the third person fighty sword thing. You know that one. That one. And then something else, which was revealed.
Was it?
I don't remember now either.
Yep.
But I think there's 3 things. I was trying to remember before, but I think we're up to like 3.
Should probably make an official list on play.
Start keeping a track of them now. Yeah, probably should.
Yeah.
Probably should. But yeah, I think we're up to 3 like new games, quote unquote new games, even if there is like a version coming to PS4. So that's cool. Welcome to Platinum Explosion's Last of Us replay. For the next 6 weeks, myself and Kieran shall be playing through The Last of Us again and discussing our replay in this bonus segment for Platinum Explosion. We will then be shooting it off into its own sort of thing in case you just want to watch it without listening to the whole thing because you're a crazy person. You should listen to the whole Platinum Explosion. Anyway, I'll put it up a day later on the YouTubes as its own cutout. So that's how we're going to be doing this for the next 6 weeks in the lead up to The Last of Us Part 2, because we're all excited and stuff. So because this is a segment in Platinum Explosion, it's not going to be like half an hour or however long. We're not going to spend too long on it, although this first little bit here is going to be longer than future ones because I'm babbling on explaining what it's going to be a little bit, but we're only going to do it once, so that's perfectly fine. But let's just jump into it. So Kieran, when was the last time you played The Last of Us? If you've only played it once, was it back when it came out on PS3? And then after you answered that, jumping into it, playing it again, how was you feeling about the look and feel of the game? Because I think it's easy to forget that this is in fact a PS3 game. Even if we're playing the remastered version like we are, it is still, it's a PS3 generation game.
Okay, well, it's nice to be back on Platinum Explosion as actually Hobby's stunt double because he can't play scary games, even though this is not that scary. I never played it on PlayStation 3. I bought a PlayStation 4 as this was part of the reason I bought my PlayStation 4 originally. Like before this and leading up to this, especially during the Xbox 360, PS3 age, I was very strong on the side of Xbox 360. That was my main and only console. My dad had a PlayStation 3, but I didn't even bother with it because I thought it was kind of garbage. But I bought the PlayStation to play this game, and Last of Us had always been one of those games. Last of Us and Uncharted. I'd played Uncharted a little bit more, but Last of Us not so much beforehand. But Last of Us was one of the games I desperately wanted to play beforehand. So I've only ever played the remastered version, and even then, it's been 5 years. Good 4 or 5 years since I've played it, because it was the first game I played and finished before when I originally bought the PlayStation. I think this time it didn't look worse. I think it even looked better because I don't think I've played it since the HDR update came out and being able to use it on my HDR TV. I think that's a new element to the game that kind of makes it pop it a little bit more or make it look that little bit better than what it used to maybe. I probably wasn't so surprised because I have recently, I watched the start of Nolan North and Troy Baker's playthrough over on Retro Replay. I did stop that fairly quickly because watching Nolan try and play that game is actually very triggering. So I wasn't that shocked or that put out by how it looked or by playing the game again. But it's one of those games where it always has its own charm to look good, and you're not really playing it for it to look amazing anymore. You're playing it for the nostalgic feeling or for that great storyline.
Yep. So the last time I actually played it was launch week PS3. Like
So you've never played the remastered version?
No, my thing is
that's interesting.
So it's been even longer. So yeah, because I played it obviously release week as most people did, and then I brought the remastered version day one that it came out. I played through up to the very start of Billstown, so not much further than
we're
going to be playing in this first section. And I got that far, and I was just like, you know what? Because it'd been like a year or whatever it had been at that point, and I was still just like, it has not been long enough for me to want to play this yet. I still felt like I was like my one journey with the game, I had like even though this isn't like a Telltale game where you make your own decisions and stuff, I still just had a very like distinct feeling about my time with the game. And it was one of those things where I'm playing it, I'm like, I don't want to change or have anything go different, even though it's not going to, because it's a very on the path thing. But like just in my mind, like the way I reacted and reacted to certain scenes or whatever else, and I put it down, not because I was like I'm bored or like whatever. I was just like, this feels weird, and I never went back and touched it since. And then every time I kept putting off or thinking about replaying it, obviously then they start talking about The Last of Us 2 coming. Last of Us 2 starts coming, rumors, stuff, and then when we find out they're actually making it, I'm like, well, at this stage I'm just going to keep putting it off until I'm not going to replay it until we're right around the corner from 2, and then of course by the time we get right around the corner from 2, now I have a PlayStation podcast. Now I get to turn the thing off, the thing I've been putting off doing for a long time. I get to turn it into content, which is the whole moral of everything I do in my life now. So that's fine. So what we're going to do each of these things is we're going to just quickly talk about the key characters and story beats from each section, anything that we randomly thought of while playing it, the characters, what have you, and then anything like major gameplay things. Although for the most part, it'll just be like, we're not going to spend too much time talking about the gameplay, I don't think, because it's like, oh, we shot some people, you snuck around, it doesn't really change that much. It's just like, we'll probably just be focusing on the story stuff. So let's start with the prologue, and then we're going to be talking about the quarantine zone after that, and that's where we finished up this section. So the opening for this game, I think, is obviously, in my opinion, very easily one of the best openings, or at least memorable, even if you're like, oh, it's not my top 5 openings because it makes me feel like shit. But it definitely is like most memorable openings for games, because it's just like, before you even get to the killer finale, it's just the way they build it all up. They start with this scene, so you get to feel the way their relationship is. You get an understanding of the fact that the whole family is Joel plus his daughter. They get that little part where they let you walk around as the her in the house and explore, and you can find these photographs and all this other stuff, like a little bit of world building and stuff if you want to partake in that. The fact that you can walk around the house and you can watch like the full news report on the TV before like the explosion goes off, and then the TV will cut off in Joel's room, and then it triggers an event outside where you can see the explosion going off. Like there's lots of like little cinematic events.
What was that? Oh, God.
That you can miss if you just rush through it.
Even just stuff like there's the dog barking outside, and then the dog gets hurt or killed, sadly.
And then it goes quiet.
And then it goes quiet. There's a lot of audio as well as visual cues throughout it that are very good at world building. And I think it does a fantastic job with letting you play as Joel's daughter, as Sarah, for this bit, because it does two things. It kind of lets you explore the world from the perspective of a character that's completely ignorant about what's going on. So it's not like you're playing a character that knows everything and you're trying to work out still. But it also plays a character that lets you get kind of a little bit attached to Sarah, because you're learning with her. You're going through this world with her at the time. And it means the payout of later in the prologue is a lot bigger and a lot more meaningful than just if you just gone straight into playing as Joel.
Yep. 100%. And the first time playing it, it was just like one of the biggest shocks. And even knowing that it's still coming, I have played it. I have seen, of course, it was like when the game started coming out, I'd watch like heaps of YouTubers and, you know, people just play this stuff just to see their reaction, of course. So it's like, I know the end of the prologue section, like the back of my hand kind of, but still here I am a day ago playing it again, sitting here crying in my chair, you know, like every time.
Please don't. Oh no. Sarah. Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me. I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right. I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby. Please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah.
It makes it harder, I guess. And it'll be interesting to talk about this throughout this playthrough now, is how we view and look at the game retroactively now that we know the full story, now that we know everything that's going to happen and everything that is happening in the world around this time. Knowing a lot more about it makes everything a lot more impactful and meaningful, and it gives you retroactive light of, well, this is why Joel feels this way later in the game. Or this is...
Turns him into a curmudgeon.
Yeah, like he's still, you know, you can still tell there's still moments where you see that Joel in this playthrough, like when he doesn't want to pick up the family that's walking across the side of the road. Speaking of while they're driving, I don't think they ever actually said it to Sarah because she was, you know, it wasn't really something they needed to tell her as a character. Why did they drive into the town or into the city? Because they seem to be...
They say something about skipping around through like some shortcut to get to the back end highway. Like they discuss it in the car as if they're thinking of a secret way where most people won't be going. And that's when they get there, they're like, oh, everyone and their fucking...
Everyone's done this.
Everyone's had the same thought process. Yeah. So I feel like they tried to do what they expected everyone not to do, and then everyone's done what everyone expected not to do. And
it was just because it was like, you guys are in a, like, what seems to be, when you leave the house, somewhat countryside area, like an outskirts of a town area. So it's like,
I think it's one of those things where it's like there's still like the only way is in and out. You got to hit a main highway somewhere to get out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Thing. Yeah, so, that's fair enough. It was just it's one of those things, and I do like the small touch of when you're looking around in the car, wherever you're angling the camera to, Sarah actually moves to. Is it Sarah? I keep calling her Sarah. Yeah. It is Sarah. Good. She actually moves to like lean over, like a kid does, lean over to look out, and I like those small touches of just humanity that you find all the way through this game, where it's not writing a out there, you know, horror game about some kind of apocalypse. It's writing this, but still grounding itself in humanity and grounding itself in this world that, you know, we can understand and connect with.
I like it because it means that any game that lets me do things where characters do stuff like that, I just purposely try and like enact things as if I'm like controlling a movie. So like I'll purposely like I'm slow moving around the car as stuff happen, like reacting to it, like just trying to make it more cinematic for whatever reason. I don't know, just for myself. There's no real reason, I guess, but that's how I just play games in general. I think it comes down to like the movie loving side of me. So after the prologue, of course, I do want to mention how cool the opening credits sequence is. I think that's just cool. And also at the time when this came out, I don't think that was something that many games did, like this really cool opening credits sequence. A lot of games don't really either still, but... And
it still uses... It doesn't even waste that time. It still uses that opening credits
to tell
time
you what's happening.
To tell you what's happening, to get you to build more. And I love that choice to skip 20 years. That's a very...
it's a long time.
It's a very long time to jump in a timeline. It's also very interesting to be so disconnected from the starting point of an apocalypse or something like this happened. A lot of people like to tell the story of what is, what happens? How do people live with this apocalypse happening around them, even if it's 6 months out in The Walking Dead or, however long. With this to go 20 years, it's like, well, you're not really dealing with
it's just people living in the new world.
It's people,
at that point.
it's living in the new world and how they've adapted to that life.
Yeah, which becomes part of the storyline because, I got tired. So when we move to the first proper, quote unquote, proper section of the game, which is called the quarantine zone, and we get introduced to the world, which is now it's 2033. And we can humanity is now mostly living under these containment centers that have been ruled by the FDRA, which is like the government center basically. And we learn quickly that they're fighting with the Fireflies. Now, saying about like, it's 20 years later and now everyone's kind of used to it. That is important because FDRA, as we find out a little bit further in the game, not to skip ahead too much, but previous knowledge tied in as we play somewhat. They're not looking for a cure anymore. They're just like, it's done. Like this is how we're living now, and y'all gotta learn how to do it. The Fireflies, of course, are the ones that are fighting. Get back against them, want to install a proper government type system, overthrow them, and they also, of course, want to find a cure still. They're still actively looking for a cure and a way to restore civilization and defeat the disease. What do they call it? Infestation disease? What? I don't know.
It's a virus, isn't it?
Virus?
Like
yeah. I don't remember the exact word.
Because it's fungal and everything.
Yeah. So, they're still trying to find a way to beat that. But yeah, a lot of the people in this world now, 20 years later, are just like, well, this is like, it's weird to say given up, but it's just like they've accepted the way life is now, So that's the world we're set up in 20 years later.
Do you find yourself, especially in this opening section of the outbreak of the quarantine zone, do you find yourself playing Joel a little bit differently? Because I remember my first playthrough, and this specifically, I guess the only time it really matters is that moment with the guy where it's like you could shoot him and kill him, or just leave him to die in the fungal section that his mask is broken, he's trapped. And I know me personally, when I'm playing games, I'm a very kind-hearted person in games. I'll generally do the morally right thing. I'll generally help where I can. But this playthrough, and I guess this comes to my own background with Dungeons & Dragons and enjoying the roleplay side of things, I have a lot better understanding of who Joel is now in this game and what his character is. And so I didn't shoot the guy and I just walked away from it.
Really?
Which I thought was a very... At that point in the game, it's a very Joel thing. Like, he's pretty cold-hearted. Like, he's disconnected from those kind of emotions with this world. And for him, saving a bullet is a lot more valuable than helping somebody die and not...
Potentially. I shoot him, but I can kind of buy it into Joel because although I agree with what you're saying that he would rather save a bullet, I also think guy screaming can attract attention, and I could write it into Joel's character that he shoots him not to help him, but simply because it also works out well for him. Yeah. So that's
even though mechanically it's a pointless decision because there's bullets on the ground right next to him. So it's a mechanically, it's supposedly teaching people, if you make certain decisions, they could impact you later. But it's it's just one of those things where I really like Joel as a character overall. So I'm excited to explore him again. Yeah.
So of course, Joel is the first main character that we start to meet in this section, which we don't really need to spend too much time talking about in this section because we get more in the next chapter when we get more time with him and Ellie just talking to one another. Get a better idea, I think, then of the kind of man he is. Like now, like 20 years on kind of thing. We do get to meet Tess, who's played by Annie Wershing. And they don't really tell you much about Tess in this game at all, unless there's stuff in like secrets that I've never found, that I don't know about or whatever else. But it's like Tess is more or less the brains of this underworld operation that her and Joel are running with some other people, I guess, potentially. But she's like, Joel's the muscle. She's like the head and brains of the operation, but also she's muscle, I guess, somewhat because she's not afraid to certainly go in. But I like Tess. She's a lot of fun, but I wish we kind of knew more about how they met and, other things about her.
It's one of those things with this game that that relationship, Tess and Joel's relationship early in this game, is probably one of the first of many signs of how fantastic the writing team is for this game. Because they tell you so much through their dialogue without actually saying anything. Like, you can tell there's a mutual respect. You can tell there's almost like a underlying romantic connection between the two of them. They're very, the banter back and forth, you can tell how much Joel cares about her, but they never at any point feel like the game needs to hit you over the head with that information. It's there for you to take it, and it's done through those fantastic little moments of those conversations and dialogue options that you don't have to choose, the optional ones. And I think, especially going through this, not missing one is so important to really getting the full experience out of this game.
Yeah, especially since this section here that we're talking about now, it's in a lot of ways it's still the prologue of the game, because it ends with setting up the main mission of the game, obviously. So it's like a lot of what's happening here is just world building, explaining who Joel is, explaining who Tess is, explaining who the Fireflies are, all this sort of stuff. Like, it's a lot of that stuff. So if you're missing out on those extra triangle prompts and whatever for extra conversations, you're missing a lot of what this point of the game is really about in this section.
And it shows the support that the direction team and the writers for this game have from Naughty Dog, because a lot of other developers and writers would be like, okay, let's chop. Let's get into the game. Let's get into the meat of things. Let's really dive right into what we're doing here, where this game lets you breathe in the world. You get to kind of take in the world, get acclimated to it, really learn about it and get involved in it before it even kicks you into the main storyline.
And by the time you reach the end of this section, I think it would easily take most people 90 minutes rushing-ish to 2 hours, probably on average, like more just casually playing it, especially for the first time playing it. You're probably spending more time gingerly kind of trying to find your way around or whatever. So it's like 2 hours of the game to get to, like, here's what the actual mission of the game is. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, they're like, no, we're no rush over here. So yeah, in this section we see the two attempt to get back guns that were stolen from them. They eventually learn that they'd been sold to Marlene, who's played by Merle Dandridge, who's the leader of the Fireflies. She then says that Joel and Tess can get back the guns if they do a job for her, which is delivering some cargo. So you follow her back to the Fireflies base, where you meet up with the cargo, in quotation marks, which turns out to be Ellie, a young girl who's played by Ashley Johnson. Joel then takes Ellie back to a safe house where he's then waiting out for Tess to return, because Tess has gone to check out the hardware, the guns, to make sure they're all good before they head off to do the job. And that's where this first section of the game ends. You could talk about a little bit about Ellie if you want. I personally am kind of fired to leave discussing her until next week, because we get like two conversations with her.
All I'll say for Ellie is just, even just in the opening couple of interactions, you just go, God, I forget how good Ashley Johnson is. And God, I forget how good her and Troy Baker play off each other in this game.
So what's the deal with you and Marlene anyways?
I don't know. She's my friend, I guess.
Your friend, huh? You're friends with the leader of the Fireflies. What are you, like 12?
She knew my mom, and she's been looking after me. And I'm 14. Not that that has anything to do with anything.
So where are your parents?
Where are anyone's parents? They've been gone a long, long time.
So instead of just staying in school, you decide to run up and join the Fireflies, is that it?
Look, I'm not supposed to tell you why you're smuggling me, if that's what you're getting at.
You wanna know the best thing about my job? I don't gotta know why. To be honest with you, I give two shits what you're up to.
Even just that little bit, which is probably only like 5 minutes of gameplay, if you know where you're going.
Yeah.
Just the small conversations that the two of them have is just so back and forth.
He's like, how old are you? And she's like, oh, what's she, 13?
He's like, you're 12, aren't you? And she's like, no, I'm 14.
I'm 14. And he's like, why are you taking it anyway? And then she's like, no, I'm not supposed to tell you anyway. And he's like, well, guess what? Yeah, I don't even care. You know what? You know why I don't ask? Because I don't care, lady. All right, whatever. You know, like.
yeah. It's a good sign to show their chemistry so early in this game.
Yeah. So that is going to wrap up these first two sections, Prologue Boss Quarantine. Next week, join us again on Platinum Explosion, of course, on explosionnetwork.com for the continuation of this, or find the cutout a day later after podcasts on youtube.com/Explosion Network. We'll be talking about The Outskirts, which is going to see us take Tess and Ellie all the way up through to Billstown, and then we're going to play through and talk about Billstown as well, which of course, if you've played the game before, which most of you surely have, you know that Billstown is where we meet Bill, a great character in this game, and that when we finish up Billstown, that's where we're going to wrap up that section. So we will see you here to talk about that.
I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. Hope you enjoyed the episode and the first Last of Us replay segment. I'll be continuing for the next 8 or 7 weeks. Jeez, I can't remember now. Should have looked it up beforehand.
Ooh.
Anyway, follow us all on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. That takes you to a Twitter list with all of our Twitters. You can suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. And until next week, remember that every trophy counts, including all the ones that wouldn't be syncing for you if you currently have Final Fantasy VII Remake, because the trophies aren't live. So although they may be popping for you, don't worry. Just don't delete that save file and you can sync them later. PSA. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.